Thanks for the invitation to be here this morning. I'd love to talk about this instrument, but this is the first time I've talked about it in front of a historical society. And it's made me think a little bit about what it is about this and the project that would be of interest to a historical society. So let me first ask, how many of you know all about organs? Well, let's go the other way. How many of you is this the first time that you listened to any kind of presentation about a pipe organ, or how it works, or how it plays? A few of you? Okay. Then we'll start with some basics. And then what I would like to do is I'd like to demonstrate some of the tones of the organ, maybe play a few musical samples, although you either listen to music or you listen to me talk, so I have to find the right balance there. The disclaimer at the beginning is I haven't hardly touched the organ in 5 months, so don't judge me on my skills. Let me start by saying what this organ is not. It is not like the organs in the museum. It's got white keys and black keys. It's got a few knobs you pull out, and that's about it. Those reed organs, or pump organs as they're sometimes called, are of a different age, a different style. They produce their tone in a very different way than this one does. They draw wind over, or they push wind over vibrating reeds, and somebody's got to sit there and pedal with their feet to keep the wind moving. This is not that. This is also not like theater organs. Theater organs are closer because they produce much of their sound in the same way that this pipe organ does. Theater organs often have a lot of pipes, and they also treat them differently, and they're really after a different kind of sound than this organ is. You might think of the mighty Wurlitzer at the Grand Rapids Public Museum. It's great, it's a lot of fun, but it's not like this. Not really. This is also not an electronic organ. There are lots of things out in the world, in churches and in homes, that people refer to as their organ, an electronic organ. Names like Allen or Johannes from the Netherlands, Lowry organs at home. They're fun, they're enjoyable, but that's not what this is either. They produce their tone strictly in electronic ways. And this organ makes no sound in an electronic way. So that's what this organ is not. What is it? Well, let me show a few pictures of what you don't see. Because while we like to say this is the organ, boy, this is not much of the organ. This is an important piece, the console, because that's where all the signaling happens. But what you need to know is that up on this side and on this side, in the square or rectangular rooms defined by these facades here, are pipes that are laid out in an order such as this. If you have the handout in front of you that has a stop list, it's this one. You see a list of the various pipes that are up in the chambers. Those that are listed under this, and by the way, this is the organ that was originally installed by this company, the predecessor to this organ in 1971, and the other two columns is what we have now after the renovation and enhancement of the organ. But you see a list of stops with funny names and numbers in front of them. These represent all of the different tones that this organ can produce because those pipes are all shaped a little differently. They're made of different materials, they're of different lengths, they're of different scale, not do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but a mathematical proportion scale between width and height. And they all produce different tones. Let me give you an example. And while I do this, I'll try to compare to what you might have heard in organs a century ago. I'm assuming that maybe you'd like to know what the organs in churches were like a century ago. There's the Historical Society. So I can only describe it, but we can get close. Every pipe organ has what's called a principal, at least one principal stop. Principal is the family of pipes that there's no other instrument that makes a sound like this one. And in the great organ, which is on this side, which is played on the lower manual, you have an 8-foot principal. Does it sound familiar to you? I hope so. You know, that's the fundamental stop of a pipe organ. And while I don't know very much about the organ that was in this church when it was built, or the second building in 1911, I'm pretty sure that that kind of sound is what you heard. That was real important because it sustained the singing of hymns. It did more to support the voice of the congregation, and wasn't as interested in doing other kinds of musical things. Now, I said that they have many numbers in front of them. That's because pipes, the pitch of a pipe is directly proportionate to the length of a pipe. And an 8-foot pipe is considered the basic vocal pitch or concert pitch. But every time you cut the length in half, the pitch goes up an octave. So we have a 4-foot octave, again, part of the principal rank. And when you draw that, well, first of all, it's an octave higher. And when you put them together, it becomes brighter, fuller, more interesting. Have that again to the 2-foot, and there you have an even brighter tone, a fuller tone. You really want to support the singing, you start drawing more stops. This organ doesn't get louder by amplification, it gets louder by addition, by adding, not by amplifying. Then there's a funny stop that's got Roman numerals in front of it. That's also in the same family of pipes, but they are, there's 3 or 4 on each note that they seize on the harmonics of the sound wave. You would never play that by itself because it sounds like it's meant simply to be a crown or a jewel on top of the principal chorus. Principal chorus is important. We have a principal chorus here and here, and I'll give you just a touch from one of Bach's little fugues to give you an idea of what the principal chorus sounds like.